Good morning and welcome to the autopsy of her healing, evolving resiliency. I am Iris Denise Owens, and on the line with me is my beautiful assistant co-host.
Stephanie Gianni Green. Good morning, honey bunny.
Good morning, honey bunny. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I am wonderful. It is Friday, and it has
It
been
is.
a whirlwind week. And
Yes,
of
it has
course,
been.
And of course, in our world, Fridays don't mean anything. And the reason why we say that is because we both are one, we're both entrepreneurs. Two, we're both realtors. And so Fridays means nothing to us. Other than sometimes Friday means it's going to our week really gears up because
Exactly.
if we're working in our real estate business, that means there are people, you want clients that you need to take out. There are houses you need to show, there's houses you need to go and view to get listings done. So the weekends just become another part of the week for us, And then
That's
again, as entrepreneurs do not technically have days off. We have to
no, we
schedule
don't.
those. We
Exactly.
have to schedule those, and then
We have to remember that we have to sometime during the day stop working because we will
yes,
keep working, keep working.
absolutely, absolutely, because there is always something to do, always something.
Absolutely.
So today we are going to jump in and we're going to talk about we were throwing this topic around because we really don't know where we're going to land on it, but we were going to talk about when your walk in the park turns into a run for your life, or a walk in the park turns into a really freaky event. or the walk in the park turns into something you could have never even imagined. And so
I walk in the park completely left.
Right. You're right. The walk in the park left and you were still in the park. Yeah, that's good. I like that. The walk in the park ends up with you still in the park, right? And so the reason why we're talking about this is because I had a very interesting life experience last Saturday on October 16th. And so, some of you know, some of you may not. I'm a runner. But of course, I have not ran in the last, ran in a run for the last 19 months since we've been in COVID, because all the runs, of course, have been, canceled, and we've been social distancing. And so doing a run, of course, was not an option. But nonetheless, there was a run that came up. And so I was going to do this run, or I did this run with two of my sisters. And so one of my sisters is a runner and the other is not. And this was actually her first 5K. So we decided that we, of course, were going to walk the 5K. So great. We started that morning. Weather was beautiful. It was awesome. We were so excited. And of course, two of us, the two runners, we're morning people, and our other sister, who is the walker, was like, I don't know why y'all have this kind of energy in the morning. I need you all to just shut up and be quiet until I warm up into this thing. And so we were really harassing her. So it was really, we were having a great morning. The weather was beautiful. So nonetheless, we started the walk, and halfway through the walk, we're walking and talking, and all of a sudden, I felt something puncture my thigh. I mean, like literally, it's like when you get a needle, like even when you look, I always look away from the needle, but you feel the needle puncture the skin. Something punctured my skin, and I know, and I heard myself go, ow, something bit me, And so it was like, my two sisters were like, we didn't see anything. They were like, you sure? I was like, yes, something bit me. Well, the site, of course, because I couldn't see it because it's on my thigh. But that spot started to get hot. It got really hot, like someone was blowing a torch on the back of my thigh. And so anyway, we keep walking, and I'm rubbing, and I could feel a little welt, I even stopped to examine it. And they looked and they said, yeah, so, you could just see a little welt, like if you had gotten, like if I had gotten stung by a mosquito or something. And so we kept walking. We finished, ran across the finish line, excited. And so as I crossed the finish line, I said, we were like, okay, we got to walk down, because it wasn't at an amphitheater. We had to walk down into the amphitheater. That's where our medals were for finishing the 5K. So as we're walking, I start to feel like my eyes. And so I said to them, I said, hey, are my eyes swollen? But when you feel like when your eyes are swelling, because it feels weird, right? You feel like,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
It's
You know that.
Yeah. It's like if you have allergies, when something, so it started there. And so we kept on walking. And of course, now it's hot, so it's warmer. But now my eyes are itchy. And now my neck is starting to feel really itchy and weird. So as we're walking to go get the medals, there was a restroom. So I said, let me run in here and look in this mirror. I walk in and I look in the mirror, and I could see my neck looked as though someone had just taken their nails and just was like scraping it up and down my neck, because it was red and welpy. So, okay, go down, get the medals, we come back up. So I stop and I talk to some people, but while I'm talking to people, so now my ears are warm and my ears are itchy. I'm like, oh, okay, something's definitely going on here. So let me say, I am allergic to bees, wasps, beeswax, topical sulfur, aspirin, right? But I hadn't been stung by a bee probably since I was like, I don't know, 13 or 14. That's the last time I've been stung by a bee or wasp. And well, of course, when I get stung by a mosquito or an ant or anything, I will have a reaction. But the reaction is, like swelling but only in, at the site, at the bite site is what I call it, right? And so I just, was like, okay, I don't know what stung me. I don't know what bit me, because again, like I said, no one saw it. I didn't see it. They didn't see it. So we're walking back toward the car, but I could feel my body now getting hot, and this site is still burning. And so Merck is walking behind us, one of my sisters, and she says, oh, it was a welt. She says, but now it's like a quarter size. I could see, like it's showing through my running pants, right? And I'm like, okay. So I'm like, let's get to the car. Because we're like, let's get to Walgreens and get you some Benadryl. Okay. So we get in the car, we get to Walgreens. So by the time we get to Walgreens, that quarter size now is this protruding bulge on the back of my thigh. And we're talking, that was maybe a 5-minute ride.
Wow.
And
that's so scary.
Yeah, a 5-minute ride. And so now we get inside. I can definitely feel that my eyes are swollen. I can feel my hand is whelping. I get in the store. I take the Benadryl, and I've spoken to the pharmacist, and I walk in and say, something bit me, don't know what. She says, are you allergic to anything? Yes, B. She said, Benadryl's going to be your bet. Liquid or tablet? She goes, liquid. Well, they didn't have any liquid. They only had the children's liquid. So I take the tablets. Well, now we're still talking. And my other friend, Sheila, goes to the, how they have the many clinics in there. And she's talking to the doctor that's there. And she goes, well, I can't help you. The pharmacist is over there. Oh, okay. Well, thanks for nothing.
Exactly.
Walgreens, you need to fix that.
Yeah.
And so,
With the attitude.
Right. While we're talking to the pharmacist, I am turning into, if you ever saw the movie Hitch with Will Smith,
Yeah.
where he has the allergic reaction to the
The
shellfish,
shellfish.
right? That he didn't even eat the shellfish. He was just, they were just
In the presence, in the
right.
area.
They were preparing the shellfish, and then he starts, all of this is going on. And so by the time they get to the drugstore, his face is like, well,
His
that was
ears.
me, because I was transforming into Will Smith from Hitch or Fiona from Shrek. I'm telling you, that's what this is what's going on. So the pharmacist says, okay, well, you guys can, two choices. You can take her to an urgent care, or you can even go over to the fire department, which was directly across the street from the Walgreens. And so we're like, jump back in the car. We're going to the fire department, right? And so get to the fire department, and they are taking vitals. And I'm a strong person. I bear pain like nobody else. I deliver babies, natural childbirth. I'm, not a weakling when it comes to pain. And I wasn't in pain, but what I didn't realize is that they're talking to me, and all of a sudden my head does this, whoo, and now I got to go down to the ground because the air up here is way too high for me. But that was a result of my blood pressure dropping. My blood pressure was like 83 over, I think, 60 or something crazy. And so the firemen and the EMTs are now, checking my blood pressure, and trying to, because they're trying to see if that's a right reading. So they've done the cup, and they can't do the cup. So now they're doing it the old fashioned way to really, really see where my blood pressure is. So at that point they say, okay, with the way your blood pressure is going, we really, really believe you need to go to the hospital. And at this point, my whole body now is broken into hives. I am red and whelpy everywhere. Arms, neck, lips, head, in my scalp. I am red everywhere. Get into the ambulance, and they're like, we're going to give you an epi shot, because the Benadryl obviously was not doing it quickly enough, but the Benadryl did help. I will say the Benadryl probably saved me from going into a convulsive state or into shock all the way, because there was nothing in my system. I had not eaten that day either, because I don't eat before a run. So definitely there was nothing in my system, but nonetheless, give me the epi shot. And then the throat starts to feel, never had a problem breathing, but the throat feels like there is something sitting, like that knot in my throat. And my chest feels like I have indigestion. EMTs were amazing, kept talking to me the whole time. And of course, I'm making jokes. So I'm going to tell you all, even in all this that's going on, right? I'm still a girl. So I'm still very vain, and all this is going on. So my first moment of public humiliation comes when the EMT says, did anyone check to see if the stinger is in there? And they all go, no, we didn't, right? And so the other EMT says, oh, it's fine. When she gets in the ambulance. Now I'm already on the gurney. He says, we'll just check it when we get her in the ambulance. And the other EMT goes, no, because, that's going to be difficult for her to have to try to, stand up. And so then that EMT says, well, we need to check it. We'll make a curtain right here. So So here I am standing in front of the fire station in Peachtree City. outside the fire station, pulling down my running pants so they could check to see if there's a stinger in my thigh. I'm like, oh, so I'm making jokes. I said, well, this is why your grandma always says to wear clean underwear.
Absolutely. And your underwear. Let's be clear about that.
Right.
Your underwear.
Right, Steph, because Lord help had that been that situation, right?
I was commando today.
I was like, okay, no problem. So the EMTs are laughing, Murph and Sheila are laughing. They're like, this is crazy. But right here is first where I want to put a pin in how important it is to have people in your life who truly care about you.
Absolutely.
Because Mercedes Miller, Sheila Richardson never left my side, right? Mm-hmm. And I know most of you are probably going, well, of course they never left your side. No, because there are people that we have all encountered in our lives, and we think that when something goes wrong or when we are in need of help or someone to just be there with us, to walk with us, to sit with us, to whatever we need, that those people will be there. And I'm sure we've all had those moments where we were by ourselves in a hospital, in a jail cell, in a courtroom, in a whatever it was that was a trying time for you. But when you thought that you had people, there was nobody there for you. That was not the case. My two sisters, Sheila was on the ground with me, encouraging me and telling me, she's like, I know it's hard, but try to calm down, because what we didn't want is for me to go into hyperventilating or, getting real overly excited in a situation where I was already, my blood pressure had dropped and it had not come back yet. But they took care of me, they came with me to the hospital, but of course, because of COVID, they couldn't come in the hospital with me. So they went back and got my car. They drove my car to the hospital so that when I did get out, I would be able to get home. And if I couldn't drive, they had already called me and said, if you can't, call us and one of us will be there to make sure you get home safely, right? Mm-hmm. So they did all that. They, was calling, people to let them know what was going on. So they were there for me. So I'm so appreciative, love them so much for being there for me. But when I get to the hospital, and another thing I learned, not that the ambulance ride was fine. The EMTs were great. They were awesome. But something I learned is if you really want to get in the hospital and get seen fast, go by the ambulance.
Yes, I experienced that. Yes, absolutely.
Yes, you have. Because guess what? The ambulance needs their gurney back. They're not going to just let you sit there on their gurney, right?
Nope.
And when you go with they check you in. Like, they go and check you in, get you registered and all that stuff. Yep. And it's like, whoo, they get you in quickly. So if you have to go, that's the best way to go. Just say it, right?
Yeah, you're not sitting there.
Right. And so I get in there. And so here I am now in the hospital room. So now I have the EMTs, the doctor, the charge nurse, the other nurse, and some young lady sitting in the corner. I guess she was taking the notes for the doctor on her laptop. Here's the nurse standing in front of me with the gown. Okay, I need you to take off your shoes and take off your pants. Oh, okay, here we go again. The whole room of people. Take off my clothes again. And then she's like, yep, and take off your shirt and take off your sports bra. Wow. I, never thought I was going to be a public exhibitionist, but that day twice in one day, it was a lot, So ended up, they gave me, they checked my vitals, my blood pressure came back, um, gave me two servings of steroids, and then I went home probably within an hour and a half, which they initially said I was going to have to be there for 6 hours, but I was okay. Everything came back. And it's crazy because Steph Steph uses an EpiPen because we for years, we've known each other for years. And so Steph always said, "Do you have an EpiPen?" And I was like, "Nah." And it's crazy because when I went for my physical this year, my doctor wrote a prescription for the EpiPen. I was like, "I don't need no EpiPen. I've never had an episode where I had." Well, look at how that turned out, right?
Mm-hmm.
I left home that day for a walk in the park, a 5K walk run to have fun, and then literally ended up in the hospital and was in a very precarious situation, right? Um, it is just a reminder, and it was a serious reminder to me that the things we take for granted, right? The things that we think we're prepared for and we're not prepared for. Because that could have went so many different ways. Because I am a runner, I have done runs by myself. Now, of course, there were people out there on that path, but I'm just saying I could have been out there running, walking by myself, gotten stung,
Exactly, which is true.
and could have gone into shock or anything and passed out, and may not have been as fortunate to get to the doctor, to get to the the Benadryl, to get to Walgreens, and then have somebody drive me over to the fire station, and then somebody wait with me, and somebody take me to the hospital. So there was just, and I know some people will say, yeah, but none of those things happened, but all of those other things did happen. And for me, it was like, I don't want to call it it was like I saw my life flashing in front of me, because I didn't see my life flashing in front of me. What I saw was, and what I was experiencing was, this is not how I thought this would go today.
Exactly.
This is not how I thought this would go today. But
Right.
it was a clear reminder of any given moment.
That's right.
Our life can change. And we think we have control, and we do not.
Nope.
We
really
do
don't.
not. We do not. Which is why it's important, about getting your stuff in order.
Yeah.
Getting
That's
your
just so
stuff
true.
in order, taking care of your business, taking care of the things you need to do for, if you have children, making sure your stuff is in order. And I know none of us like to talk about it, right? Because we're always like, oh, that just sounds so morbid. But do you have a living will? That's serious. Do you have a living will? Like, if you got sick today or tomorrow and you had to go into the hospital and your heart stopped, or you are deemed brain dead, or you've been in a coma, is there a don't resuscitate order for you? What would you like to have happen if you end up being brain dead? How long do you want the family to wait? Do you want them? Because we think, oh, my spouse, or my mother, or my children will make that decision. First of
There'll be a
all,
lot of confusion. I've been in situations. I've been around a lot of that, and it's not, it's very, because you have the people like, just let her go. I want to remember how she was. Other people like, no, no, and it becomes a big fight. Once you have that living room order, they have to abide by your wishes.
Exactly. And don't put that responsibility on the people who love you.
Exactly. It's
Because you
so
know
true.
what? That is not an easy decision to make. I remember
There's
I had to make that decision for my dad. That is not a decision you want to make.
no, it isn't. It isn't at all.
So put your stuff in order.
Yeah.
Let your kids know where your living will is,
Mhm.
where your will is, where the policies are, where the
And
share
let's
with
get a
them.
policy. Yeah, I write policies for life insurance. You
Right,
need to get a policy.
right. You need a policy.
You
And
need a
even if,
policy.
and we think, I am still amazed at when you hear that someone has died and families are still having to collect money to bury someone. And I know money is an issue. I understand that. But there are just some things that sometimes in life we just got to figure out how we get it done.
Hmm.
We just got to figure out how we get it done. We got to put some things in place because if for nothing else, try to leave your children something, you know?
Well, I mean, I definitely, I would say that, but I would say if you can't leave them anything, don't leave them debt either.
Well,
Like, you know
that
what I mean?
too.
So if you could just get a policy enough, to bury them, bury you, that
Yes,
would help them a lot. At least they don't have to like try to take out a loan and whatever they need to do.
right,
So, sometimes, maybe you can't not leave them a whole bunch, but you're not leaving them in debt either.
right.
You
Exactly.
know, that's a whole nother thing,
Try to handle the things that you need to handle because it's important because just think about again, it's impactful upon their lives now.
Exactly. I had
That
a friend of mine that I wrote a policy for that died totally unexpectedly,
Mhm.
in his 40s. And, just was shocked when I got the news, but I knew I had wrote a policy. I called my office. Is the policy still in place? It was like, absolutely. By this time, they already had started a GoFundMe page for this young man. And when I was able to call his mother and tell him that I had a
Mhm.
policy that
Yes,
was more than enough and
right,
more than enough for her to, have also to
right,
change her life. And she was like, "Oh my God, like you're an angel to me." She said, "Because I did not know. I mean, the loss
right,
of losing her child and then, not having any money because
right,
all the policies they found were no good. I mean, he had policies they were no good, but they didn't even find the policy that he had with my company. But I knew that he had a policy.
right.
And all I
Yeah,
had to do was call my office, give his name. Oh, absolutely, he has a policy. Boom.
yeah,
And there we were.
yeah.
And that was a blessing.
Yes. So I just, I'm thankful. I am very
Absolutely.
grateful to
They were not
be
doing any of those things.
yeah, yeah, to be walking around today and it's still a reminder because the bite site is still swollen. It's still
Okay.
itchy. Um, but it's a reminder of something that I thought I was like, oh my God, that was when I was a kid. I know I'm allergic to things, but I had never had that type of reaction.
Mhm.
That was a true life or death. And sometimes, it's just that quick because when you're allergic to something and your throat closes up or your heart starts to, go into shock and it stops beating and you're thinking it was just a bee bite. No, it was just a
Mhm.
mosquito bite. No, because
Mhm.
what the doctor said to me is like, what I want you to consider now, I want you to think of it this way. You're not allergic to bees. You're allergic to anything that may be that stings or bites.
Exactly. Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
kind of already knew that because like I said, if I get stung by a mosquito, it swells up. I mean, most
Mhm.
people get a little lump. Mine will swell up. Sometimes that bump will last for 2 weeks from a
Mhm.
mosquito bite. And an ant bite, forget it. It's gonna become inflamed. It's gonna turn red. It's gonna get pus in it. It's not cute, you
Mhm.
know. And so this experience was just really like it was eye opening. It's a definite reminder to not take anything for granted. Every
Not
breath,
at all.
Every breath is precious,
Yes, it
right?
is.
Um, and it was funny because when I spoke to Steph, I told her, I said, now, we always laugh about how our lives mirror each other. I said, I'm not trying to mirror this part. I'm not trying to mirror the hospital thing. Like, what is going on right here?
Wait a minute, the ambulance thing first. Let's do the ambulance thing in the hospital.
Right. Exactly. 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 And so, it was an experience. But, thankful that God put everything in place just as it needed to be. I'm well, I'm safe, you know. Um, of course, I've always been cautious when I'm outside. And like I said, I didn't even see what bit me. And that was unnerving initially too,
Yeah, that
because
is unnerving. Yeah.
I don't even know what bit me. I don't know what stung me. I don't know what punctured my skin. I mean, that's a scary thing, you know?
And I look at you today, not even a week later, it'll be a week tomorrow, but that beautiful face, could I ever imagine that it was swollen, your neck, and all this stuff was happening to you? I mean, that's just how fast things could happen. And that's
Yes.
just how fast things could turn around.
Right.
Which,
Right.
when you really think about it, it's very, very freaky. But
Yes.
those are allergic reactions. You could be in a
Yes.
situation where they're literally taking you out and you're looking like Hitch,
Yes.
or the next thing
Yep.
you know, you take some Benadryl, you get some cortisone, some
Right.
steroids, and all of a sudden you're back to yourself.
Right. Right.
Everything happens in flashes, and it's like it's crazy, but
But
it's real.
what's so crazy about it is that, like you said, it happens so instantly, right? And
Mhm.
there is no time to process,
No,
because
none at
it's
all.
just
You gotta move.
your body
Yeah.
is like, oh,
Mhm.
I'm going this way.
Because that venom is running through your
Yes.
bloodstream.
Yes. And your mind is saying, and I remember, that's why I said, I didn't have I saw my light flashing in front of me. In my mind, I remember thinking, calm down, breathe, stay focused
Right.
on what's going on right here.
Hmm.
Don't panic, don't lose sight. I just
Hmm.
kept praying, and I kept
Hmm.
calling God's name, because
Hmm.
I knew that He was with me. He was going
Hmm.
to take care of me,
Absolutely. Hmm.
you know? And so for me, that was just like, wow, And I'm one of those people, like, I'm always fascinated by travel. And I
Hmm.
say that because it's amazing to me that I could wake up today and
Oh
be
yes, me
in
too.
Georgia, and I could get on a
Well,
plane and I could be across the country,
exactly,
I or
exactly.
I
I
am
like that too. Yeah,
or I could be in a completely different time zone. It could
exactly.
be, like, I think it's weird that, like, even right here in Georgia, if I go and I drive a few miles and drive to Alabama, I could literally be on this corner in Georgia and cross the street and be in an hour behind.
I
That's
know.
crazy to me,
That is
you
crazy.
know?
That's
And
crazy.
so it is just always, whenever something happens in my life that brings me to that point of focus, what's really important here, right? Focus. Be mindful of what's going on around you, and then focusing on, is it really worth having an argument right now?
Oh yeah.
Is it worth having an argument with somebody? Is it worth
Or
going
try, or like
out?
have to be right. I got to prove I'm right. It's not. No, it's not that serious.
It's
You
not.
know, I went on a date with a gentleman, and he was trying to like tell me how to do the GPS. Well, we were going to brunch. I had
Mm-hmm.
an open house, and he said, no, we'll put the address of the restaurant and then put the address of where you're going. I said, well, it's telling me 25 minutes. So he's like, well, that can't be right. I said, it probably isn't. I said, because I really don't know what I'm doing. By the time we met at the restaurant, he's like, let me see your phone. Let me see what you put in the browser. He said, see, you didn't know how to do it. I said, oh, it's not that serious. I said, I would have figured it out. I don't need to, I don't need to like, oh, you got to prove me right. It's not that serious to me.
Right.
It's not even
Right.
about that at all. It's just like, I would have still gotten there either way. You know what I
Right.
mean? Eventually, I would have figured it out. It wasn't such a big deal. But some people take things and they just want to like, like just like, see, you're wrong. See, I know how to do this. I'm so far from that,
Yeah,
it has a lot to do with my ambulance experiences that it's not that it's so many things
it's
that
not.
just it really isn't. Okay.
I feel like
No,
I don't need to argue every point.
no,
I
no.
don't need to explain
Yes.
everything.
Yeah.
And some things,
And some things I don't even need to explain. It's
right,
not
I
even
don't
like,
need to explain, but I also don't need it to be explained.
exactly.
You know,
Exactly. Yeah.
I was talking with my mom last night, and you know, crazy how we were talking about how, because we were talking about the fact that the Laundry, Brian Laundry or Landry, was his remains were discovered yesterday.
Mm.
And you know, and so here we are, you have two people who are now gone from this earth, and there are so many unanswered questions because the two people who were there are no longer.
Mhm.
So there's always going to be a mystery. I mean, of course, I'm sure the investigations, the police, the FBI, everybody who's involved are going to, you know, they'll do their part, but you still don't have answers because you cannot speak to these two people who were involved in this situation to know what actually happened. Um, but we
You know what I
started,
realized though? I
what?
think that sometimes, like, you don't even know. Like, I mean, I could say things, but like I think like just with my divorce, I don't know really what happened. You
Right,
just know it's like, and I could see like when the things that we did see about these two young people. Um, I think that it was just, they had some mental health challenges.
right.
But I do think that with all that being included and, people being upset, I don't even think if they were here, either one of them could be able to really tell you what happened. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Because the
And a
state of
rage,
mind was probably at that
exactly,
point was altered for both of them
exactly,
and whatever was going
exactly,
on with them. And
exactly.
you're right.
You know,
And
you know, and he
it
was probably so distraught because he knew that he did murder her. He strangled her to death. And then he's like, I just don't want to be here anymore. He ran and went into the park,
right,
so, it was from the distraught. And it's probably because of the whatever made him feel the need to strangle her.
right,
And, I mean, so when things happen, like God says, we're not going to know the answers to everything.
right.
And,
We can
and you
ask.
should know
We
them.
can ask, but it doesn't mean we're
Yeah,
always going to get an answer,
exactly,
or it's going to
exactly.
always get, or we are going to get an answer that makes sense to us, because
Mhm.
sometimes things just don't make sense. Um,
Exactly. And if you need to know the answer to everything, you're going to miss out on a lot of things
yes, you are.
because that's so many good things that happen that you're not going to know the answers to,
Right,
you know. And
right,
sit there and you ponder all day for these answers, you'll be missing everything else that's happening over here,
correct.
you know.
And
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 so,
it was funny because my mom, like I said, my mom and I ended up talking last night about abusive situations, right?
mhm,
And I was saying to my mother that the thing that disturbs me so much about abuse, whether it's man to woman, woman to man,
mhm,
adults to children, whatever it is the process or the thought process of another human being believing that they have the right to treat another human being with such disdain, such manipulation, such hurt, evil, whatever you want to call it. And it really, it disturbs my spirit
mine's too.
anytime I am listening to or watching situations where people have hurt one human being to another human being has hurt another human being, you know. And we were talking about funny how we're on this topic because this is not what we were even talking about, but um my
But these
mom
are how
was,
our conversations evolve.
well, exactly, that's right, it's evolving too, it's morphing into something else, right? Which is still a prevalent topic because my mom was sharing that you know, as a kid, seeing uh, women being abused by their husbands, you know. And I was saying to my mother how I cannot even wrap my brain around around that. And I've been in an abusive situation and I couldn't wrap my brain around it then, hence why I'm not in it. But I still had to go through it, right? To know that I'm never going to let that happen, right? Never going to do that again, never going to be in that situation again. But we don't even understand how, when we do that to any person, because even as the abuser is physically abusing whomever it is that they're abusing in whatever form, shape that they're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But those who witness the abuse are just as, if not more, traumatized
Oh, absolutely.
and broken and damaged,
Mm-hmm.
which
Yes.
it is like mental health and abuse are the two things of humanness that we don't spend enough time addressing.
We don't.
We
We
just
don't.
don't. We between family secrets and this is nobody's business and it
The
just
secrets that kill you,
right,
literally.
they kill you. We don't even understand how those type of trauma in your life, whether it's done directly to you or you're
Mm-hmm.
in the space in which is being done, how it
Mm-hmm.
directly affects and directs who you become, who you are, how you operate, how you accept, how you don't accept, how you deal with life and life situations.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just,
I was
again,
walking in the city the other day. 2 weeks ago, I was on my way to go have dinner, and it was a couple, and they were like from the Middle East, and the father was pushing his daughter in the umbrella stroller, and I just can't stand those strollers anyway because the child's all hunched over like that, and then she had to be about 3. The mother's walking behind, and she's holding walking with the son, so he's about 4 or 5, whatever. The little girl, she goes to stand up. That man took his hand and hit her in the head.
mm,
Told you sit down. I was like, this like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. This like it just resonated with me. Like, who does that to their children?
who does that to a human being, period?
And right, like you hit her, and she's
Yes. Cowering. She's cowering, trying to be protected, and there's nothing or no one there to protect. Um,
I
which is
tell you,
always the
yeah.
hardest thing to see, especially when children are the victim.
One day my father was like, "Oh, I'm gonna beat you today." It's like actually about 8, 9 years old, and literally he beat me that whole day. I was under the refrigerator like a little animal, and him just beating on me with his belt, you know. And I was like, "Well, wow, that will never happen to me when I'm an adult." Like,
Right,
I have to deal with you, but I don't have to deal with any
right.
other person hitting on me like that. But these people have some serious issues, beating on anybody, but
But
especially
we
when I beat on
also
your children.
understand that
Well,
people who are abusive are people who
were
have been
abused.
abused.
Exactly. Yes, they
And
were.
that's what I'm saying. So between mental health, we don't we
Hmm.
don't address it enough. We're starting,
Alcoholism.
we're starting to,
Yes.
but we also don't address abuse. We're
No, you
starting
don't.
to, but
Mhm.
it's still, I mean, I'm 56 years old. I've been listening to abusive stories my whole life.
Mhm.
Do you remember, and I cannot remember their names right now, but do you remember the couple? They lived in Manhattan. They had a daughter, and he abused that little girl so much that um, she ended up dying from the way that he treated her, and he beat the wife. She was such a battered
Man,
woman. I cannot think of their
I
names
remember
right.
that story.
I could see her face, but I can't think of it. But
Wow.
it was like these people, they lived in Manhattan. They lived in a beautiful, building and all of this stuff. But that didn't stop him from being the abuser that he was, you know. And this woman, oh my God, I can't think of her name. There was a
It's real. I know this girl,
that
like,
was
I
a
mean,
big story in New York years ago. And
but you,
I just think about all the stories. And last night my mom was sharing a story about being a child, and my grandfather used to have a you know, what they call a juke joint.
mhm,
And they were in the juke joint, and my mother says that this woman was in there, this woman dressed beautifully, you know, she had on a white coat, and she said the woman's husband walked in and just started cutting this woman. And my mother telling this story, you know, still you could see the disturbance of having witnessed that, because as she said, you could see this blood all now dripping onto this white coat.
like,
And so to me, you know, it's just life brings us things that if we don't deal with them, we
mhm.
stay stuck.
And it
We
just goes
stay
around,
stuck.
becomes, it's
Yes.
like run around in circles.
We end up being the focal point, and life
Mhm,
goes on around
mhm,
us,
mhm,
you
mhm.
know. Um,
Yeah.
so
It's a scary place to be, but we have to do better as a human race. Definitely do
yes,
better and treat
yes,
each other better
yes,
because love is the answer. Oh, that's so mundane. No, that's true.
right,
We need to
right,
learn to love each other
right.
in
Well, we have to
spite.
learn how to love ourselves first,
Oh,
because
absolutely.
because
Oh,
if
absolutely.
I learn how to have self love for myself,
Oh, yes. The
or
toleration is
have, or
nothing.
I should say, have love for myself, and then realize where I don't have love for myself, or where my own issues are about myself with myself, then that's a step in the right direction. But most of us go through life realizing, well, I don't like this about myself. I don't like that about myself. I really don't
Mhm,
like myself that much. And then we
mhm.
allow other people to instill in us the reasons why we are not likable.
And then you go out and inflict that on other people.
Other
You
people.
know,
Right.
exactly.
So
So
you
it's
either
like goes
take it, you
on.
either
Because,
take it, and but
mhm.
then while you're taking it, there's you also are victimizing people along your path in life.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, people say, "Oh, I want to find somebody. I want to be in love." Well, fall madly in love with yourself,
Right.
and
Fall in love with you first. Right.
the love that you desire will come. You have
Right.
to become love to attract
Track
love.
love. Right.
If you don't become love, then you're not going to attract love, and that's from
Right.
every whatever type of love, because love is love. You know what I mean? But you have to become love first. Everybody's looking for love outside of themselves. You
Right.
gotta inside of you, and
Right.
you have to radiate it out,
Right.
and then you attract it in. So that's the
Right.
main thing. And even though like you could still keep giving love, and even if that person's not love, but then when you're giving love and that person's not love, they fall off because you can't stop radiating love. Because when you become love, you just keep radiating it,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
you know. And those people fall by the wayside. The ones that can't handle it, they just fall by the wayside,
Right.
and that's okay.
But some of us are broken though, and we're giving,
Absolutely.
but we don't know if we're really giving love, because we really don't know what love is.
Exactly. So we're not giving
We
love.
have an idea of what
Mhm.
we think it's
Think.
supposed to look like, but
Exactly.
also that comes from what were the examples, what were the foundations that you were taught what love is, right?
Mhm.
Because if you were taught that love is, we work Monday through Friday, you know, everybody works, and then on Friday everybody gets sloppy drunk, sloppy high, the house is crazy, there's people in, there's people out, nobody's paying attention to the children, and nobody's really paying attention to nobody else, and everybody's self-pleasing at this point, right? Everybody's
Mhm.
just worried about, what can I get, what do I want to get from you, or from you, or from you, or from you? And even if you're not willing to give it to me, then because I want it, I'm going
I'll
to
take
take
it.
it from you,
Mhm.
right? And then we go through this insanity every 3 days, or every those 3 days, Friday,
Mhm.
Saturday, Sunday, then Sunday, we kind of start pulling it back together. So,
Monday morning.
so we can pretend to be these people Monday through Friday, or Monday
Mhm.
through Thursday afternoon. Because mentally, Thursday evening, we already on Friday.
Mhm.
And the
Mhm.
behavior and the shenanigans already start for
Mhm.
those places in our lives where we're broken, and we're
Mhm.
and we're now in the this is my, I'm hungry for love, but I don't even know what that really looks like. I don't even know what that really feels like. And so we keep repeating
And
cycles.
it's true, but a lot of us wasn't even taught that's what love was. It's something that we saw and just assumed. You know what I'm saying? That's what love
Yes,
is, you know.
yes,
Oh, because my mother comes home and cooks me dinner, and you know, that's
right,
love. You know what I mean? My father comes home and he works and he gives my mother money. Oh, that's love.
right,
But then when she gets mad, he hits her. Oh, that's love. So you're getting all these ideas, like because
right.
love, like people like that little slogan, love hurts. Love does not hurt.
Love does not hurt.
That
Just
little,
like
like all these
just
little
like people want to
slogans,
say beauty costs, beauty hurts. Well,
no,
if I gotta break noses and fluff up lips and put
yeah,
injections into
yeah,
places on my body that I should not be
yeah,
injecting thing,
yeah.
and risk the fact of something exploding that is not
Exactly.
natural of my
Yeah,
body,
yeah.
then no, love should not hurt. The beauty
No,
should
and
not
beauty
hurt
should
that
not
way.
cost like that, not like that.
No, that's not,
No,
that is not,
no,
what God created, right?
not at all.
And I
Not at all.
understand where, where we get to the point where we're like, oh my God, well, my face is beautiful, but my neck, oh my God. I'm not gonna say, if that's what you want to do it. But don't get to the point where that part of you becomes so overwhelming, because when you get to that point in your life and you start to look in the mirror, and you really, you have a complete disconnect from you and what you see in the mirror, your own reflection, that is where you need to start asking yourself, why is that? Why am I
Exactly.
unable or unhappy with what I see in the mirror? Now that also goes for when we don't take care of the bodies we have, i.e.,
Now that's the truth.
we
That's the
don't
truth.
we don't exercise, we don't eat right, we
Hmm.
abuse it with drugs, with alcohol, or we
Hmm.
just beat it up and we don't take care of it. And
Hmm.
then
We're gonna not like it, right?
right, then we're not going to like it. But
Hmm.
then when you get to that point, what do you do about that?
Hmm.
Then you got to have that heart to heart with yourself about, now what do I need to do to change this situation? you
Hmm.
know because this physical being only is the covering for the spiritual being. We're a
Yeah, it's just a
spirit
shell.
first.
This
It's
is a
just a
shell.
shell,
Exactly.
right?
That's right. Yes,
Because
I never forget.
and we
What
should
was the
always think
plane
that.
crash? It one of the plane crash. I couldn't remember, but years ago, the lady she was the only one that survived the plane crash. One of the stewardess,
Mm,
and she was on the Oprah Winfrey show, and she was saying that when she saw all the spirits come out, they were all like some of the spirits was bright and lit up, and some were just dull looking, but you could see all the spirits coming up out of
mm,
the plane, and it was quite interesting. So
mm,
your spirit either is vibrant and alive, or it's dull and not, this there, you
right,
know. And it was really interesting when she was talking about that,
right.
you know, because we are just a shell,
We
and you
are.
have to love that shell that you have and take care of it, until your best of your ability. But shooting things into it and putting concrete in your butt and all this kind of things, that is not the answer. Maybe do some squats. I just don't understand. I really
Go on
don't
some
understand.
steps. Go up and
Yeah,
down steps, honey. Do
yeah,
squats, do yoga, do
whatever,
something, right?
you have to do something.
And
I
stay
belong
away
to the
from
itty bitty titty
and stay
committee,
away from
but I
those
will
red
never
cup
get breast
injections. Stay away from
implants.
those red cup injections. I'm serious.
I know that's right. And
Um,
especially when people having the parties at their house, the person come to your house, that's great. What? What? Okay, if you want to go that route, you want a little Botox, whatever else they use, I
right.
would definitely be in somebody's office. But you go in
Right.
some house, I mean,
Right.
it's a thing, the things that are always interesting to me. And you hear this, like, people, oh, you shop at Whole Foods or you buy organic food, that's a whole chat. But the things that you people are cheap about is amazing to me. And it always has something to do with, okay, you want to wear this full weave, and that's your thing, but you want to get the cheapest weave possible. That's going to take your hair out, whatever. You want to erase your wrinkles with Botox, but you don't want to. You want to go to somebody's house. You don't want to go get the best.
Right.
Like if you're going to do something like that to your body, you
Right.
should want the
Find
best.
the
I
best.
would not be going over to other countries or third world countries getting procedures done to my body. I mean,
Right.
okay, you can't afford to get it here, maybe you shouldn't be getting it done. But I definitely will be getting it done by a
Or
reputable
or or make
anybody.
a plan to get it done, right?
Exactly.
Learn how you're gonna save your money and figure out how you're
Exactly.
gonna do
Save your coins. Exactly. Whatever it takes. But
it.
that's the thing that just amazes me because you want to you want to half pay for things that like truly affect your body,
Right.
but then you're carrying an $8,000 purse. That
Right.
doesn't
But
make
you
any
don't have
sense.
$8 to put in the $8,000 purse. So
I mean, some of these people do, but the $8,000 purse is more important to you than spending however much it costs to get breast augmentations. I go over here get it cheaper. I think I'm saying when it comes to your body, why would you want to use a coupon for your body, like the cheap
that's
way?
I like that. Why would you want to use the coupon? I love that.
Like this. You're not getting another one. I don't care how you
And that's
many
right.
lines you wrinkle out or whatever.
Right.
It's
This you
still
only
only
get
so much
one.
money you're gonna get.
You only get
And,
one.
and maybe your
That's
body
true.
and it looks a little weird too. Your body looks like this, but let me say, every single organ in your body know exactly how old you are. And when on your deathbed, the autopsy of your body, they can tell you, or maybe on the outside she looked like she had no children, but she had X amount of children. I can tell by her cavity that your body tells your story.
It's funny you would say that because back to my incident on Saturday, I was laughing because when they were, of course, measuring my blood pressure, the EMT said, "Man, your heart rate is amazing." He's like, "Your heart beats like a runner." He said, "You work out, don't you?" I said, "I do." He's like, "Yeah, I can tell." When I got to the hospital, the doctor said the same thing. He says, most people's heart rate is about probably, 60 beats per minute or something like that. He's like, you're like 66 beats per minute. And he said, and here's the thing, even the fact that my blood pressure had dropped and I had the EpiPen, he was saying that the EpiPen normally takes a person's heart rate, shoots it up. It did not for me. And he was like, you have a strong heart. So when I posted my thing on Facebook and I told people, I was like, so the doctor said, this is not me saying, the doctor says I have a really strong heart rate. So I want you to know, I have the ability to chase you, to catch you, and to punch you in your throat. So, so I just want you to be careful. It's just like, I just want you to know, I can chase you and I will catch you. So
Yeah, everybody forgets about the throat, but the throat brings people to their knees real
what?
quick.
What you say? What you
You
say?
be like,
People
yeah,
always,
if I
people
had to go,
always
I would
laugh
do
at
the
me when
throat
I
too.
say that. They're like, Iris, that seems so mean. I'm like, it's not. I'm just letting you know how serious I am about what I'm saying to you right now. Don't make me punch you in your throat. Because the throat punch is a definite stop. It's a
Yeah. I don't know. People talk about the nose, the eye, the whatever. Like, I don't know. I know I was out with like some of my friends, my colleagues from with the company I write life insurance with. And he was like, "Oh, Stephanie, you can't fight." It was two brothers. They all like, and we were just talking, and I just grabbed him by the neck. He's like, "Oh," I said, he was like, "Oh,"
oh,
you know.
mm-hmm.
I
Yep.
said, "Hey, I caught you off guard too, right?"
Right. Right. Because see, while you doing all this, while you over here processing what you think I cannot do, I'm over here
Exactly.
focused on how I'm about to shut you down.
Literally.
And sometimes when we do that, so I said, never don't assume anything about anybody.
Oh my God,
right?
don't ever
Don't, in the same
underestimate
way, don't
any.
assume too much about your life, because
Nope.
while you're assuming, life is going on, and there will
Yes,
be
yes,
things that will
yes.
come at you that you have no
Mhm.
idea.
You be like, how'd I get here?
Right. What do we say? And what we had one episode, we said, how'd I get here? I came with her. Then we had another
Exactly.
one is like, I came with him. I don't know.
Exactly.
Right.
That's,
And
I'm
so,
telling you,
you just
you'll
don't
be on the
know.
ground. So how did I get here? Okay, okay, yeah, okay. So you just don't know.
You
I
just
tell
don't
people,
know.
I feel like, something starts going on. I'm in my corner. I'm over here, like, yeah, I'm like, cause honey, we're not trying to go there.
Right. And
Cause,
sometimes it's not worth it.
it's not worth it.
It's not worth it. The arguing,
Mhm.
the back and forth to have to
Mhm.
prove, and it's hard because yeah, there are times when you feel like, okay, I just can't let you keep saying that because that's bothering me, that's irritating me, that's not right. It's not okay. But then we have to just realize sometimes, is it really worth it? And
Yeah.
the
When
and
you
the
run that
real question,
scenario,
and the
when you
real
run that
question
scenario,
is it going to change? Is it going to
mhm,
change anything? Because
probably
really,
not.
we argue because we're trying to get someone else to see
How view,
our view, and that person is trying to get us to see their view.
their view.
And there comes a point where sometimes you have to learn to say, you know what, you have your view. We both have windows. What I
Exactly.
see out of my window and what you see out of your window obviously are not the same things. And so we have to
Mhm.
learn sometimes to just say, well, you watch it from your window. I'm going to watch it from my window. And we will have to learn to just look at each other from our windows, and,
That's right. Exactly.
you're like,
Yeah. If your window is so big that you're looking at it, and you on the opposite side, I'm on the opposite side, then we're not gonna ever look out the same window.
right. We're never going to see the same view
No, yeah, no, the view's gonna be
because
so different.
you have your window, I have my window, right?
Mhm,
Even though
mhm.
we're side by side, it doesn't mean that we're ever going to see the same thing, right?
Exactly.
So sometimes,
And we have to
like I
stop
said,
trying to make ourselves see the same thing. Because he looks good, he feels good, he's
she's
cute, or
cute.
she's
Yeah.
cute with this. I love the way he kisses. Yeah, okay. When all that, don't love that, all that stuff anymore, those windows, his windows this on this side, your windows on that side, and then what? You just
And then
wasted a lot
and
of
look it,
time.
and then you want to throw each other out the window.
Yeah, that's true too, And in the mix of all this stuff, babies start coming, that becomes a mess.
Yeah.
They don't just have one, they have a couple of them. And sometimes they stay with each other for 30, 40 years. You in this window and they in that window. And then what? And then you got these kids some of them in that window, some in that window, some don't even have a window. And that's how you create a mess.
Yeah.
And then you put them out into the world.
To
And
mess
then
up,
they come,
to look at other people's windows.
yes, I don't, or just come out and just be a mess. Because
Yeah.
like, the parents are, you get that one is like, I want to go to therapy and counseling so I can decide which window I want. You know what I'm saying? But that's few in between, unfortunately.
Yeah. And that's and that's the thing. Life is about evolving. And the thing about human beings is that a lot of times we don't know what we don't know.
Exactly.
And then even when we are given the opportunity to know, we still refuse to accept that as the answer, or we refuse to go beyond that. Like so if I don't believe that part, what do I believe? And where's my theory, or where's my hypothesis to prove or support what I believe? Now, of course, we believe what we believe because that's what we believe. But sometimes what we believe is not true.
Oh, it was
It's just not
absolutely.
true. And when we're in that tug of war with ourselves, in our own truth and the truth, that lends itself to, that's when you need to have some sort of investigation go on. You need to have a conversation with yourself and yourself. What do I really believe and what is really true? Like, this is my truth, but what is the truth? Because somewhere between what I believe, what someone else is saying, there is truth in there. It's just a matter of whether you decide how much of the truth you really want to accept or you really want to explore. And I think that's sometimes where we get stuck. We are afraid to deal in the truth. We want to deal in our own truth and we want to live there. And you can for a moment, but when it starts to affect your life and affect your relationships and everything you do, then that means it's time to start to look at the truth.
Which is true. I know when my niece got married and they had this saying, they said, we only have to be perfect for each other, for us, that we, because that is really a big thing, okay, opposites attract, but does it last? You know what I mean? Because you have to, your standards, they need to match to create those relationships, because if you have different standards on things, that, I mean, that becomes a problem, in relationships. Your preferences, now that's different, but your standards are something else. And, people want to get into these, like, I could change him or I could change her, and you cannot change. Only people could change themselves, and that's if they want to change. That's if they see anything to change,
right?
But some people are like, oh yeah, okay, she's or he's, whatever he is. Oh, now I want to change him and make him everything else. They had this play out years ago. It says, I love you, you're perfect, now change.
Yep.
And that's kind of like what we do to each other,
It is.
and it doesn't work. It just really, really doesn't work. But you have to have your standards, and you cannot change your standards because, oh, he's cute, she's cute, they made me feel good, whatever. Because that's where the problems come in. You have to, like, if your standards are your standards, they're not going to go anywhere. And if that's how you feel, that's how you feel, But when people start to try to change their standards for other people, that's where, because the breakdown comes, you know what I mean? If, you're a Christian and he's a Muslim, oh, we love each other, that becomes a problem as time could break down, where it could become a problem, which I know, like in my marriage, that was, it's like, how are you marrying this Muslim? You're a Christian, but, and I used to feel like, oh, long somebody believes in something. I learned that don't work out, It wasn't not worshiping the devil. But you have to, when your standards are very important to you, you have to really stick to them and see if you have those things in common, and honest communication, because the one thing that we tend to do too, we lie just to get the person.
Yes.
And you can't hold those lies up, you know what I mean? Oh no, like, oh, I can't be around anybody that smoke, now I find out you're still smoking, lying about it,
Right.
so it's just like, things of that nature, I mean, you have to be honest communication. You're just telling people the things that they like, and it is like you're meeting that representative. But representatives need to be a little bit more honest, because you would save yourself and other people a lot more time.
Well, it's something you just said. I was having I'm always having kind of these brainstorming moments with myself, me, myself, and I conversations. And I was thinking about, how we always say opposites attract. And I was thinking about that. And for me, I realized that I don't necessarily believe that. I believe that likenesses attract, because when we meet someone, right? And it's, for me, I have examined relationships that I have been in. And I thought to myself, yeah, opposites attract. We complement one another. But then I thought about it and I said, what I'm normally attracted to is the likeness of our lives. Like, how we'll start talking
That kind of
about,
parallel.
yeah, how you grew up and how I grew up. And so I think that I have in my life at times confuse that for meaning that because our lives parallel so much, that means we could be good together.
Mm-hmm.
But what I started to examine and really think about was, what were the likenesses? Like, were the likenesses good things? And I started realizing not necessarily. The likenesses were more the things that we were both broken in,
Mm-hmm.
or that we had both experienced trauma, hurt, and pain in.
Mm-hmm.
And then we grew up masking and managing those hurt, pains, and traumas, never having dealt with them. And then we met one another and then go, man, your life sounds so much like mine.
Mm-hmm.
And two broken people, two hurt people decide, man, you and I have so much in common. What in the hell? What? Where does that make any sense?
It doesn't.
Where does that make any sense? Right? But we say opposites attract. No, they don't.
No, I don't believe they do either. I'm with you.
We really come together on what we think are opposites, but it's really, my trauma sounds like
Like your
yours.
trauma.
My
And
parents'
we have
relationship,
so much in common. Like we
right?
really want this trauma.
Yeah. And so we think it's a good idea to get together because you know what that makes us think? You get me.
Yeah,
You
yeah, yeah,
understand where I'm coming from.
yeah, yeah,
You
yeah, yeah.
you are clear about who I am, and I'm
Uh-huh.
clear about who you are. But then when you get into these relationships and those two people, the real people show up, like the damaged people show up, not the lovely people, not the dressed up people who like, oh my God, you're so handsome, oh you're so beautiful, oh you're so funny, you're so crazy. So then the crazy people really show up. And
Because how
now,
about you? The one person's trying to get, put the trauma in a place that no longer affects their life, but the other person's still holding on to the trauma.
no,
That's kind of like what it really happens because
right,
if you have similar situations with your trauma that, like you said, attracted you, but one person's always trying to work on themselves and the
right,
other person really isn't.
right. Because then the other person is going to say, oh, you know who I was when you met me.
Exactly. That's the key.
Right. And then
That could be a
and
slogan.
then and then you have to say, well, yes, I did. I certainly did.
Because I
You
told
know,
you.
because we had this whole conversation. Our first meeting, or the thing that attracted us to one another, was our crazy. My sister Merck always says, when you meet people, you need to ask them, what's your crazy? She always says that. And I remember when I first met her, she said, what's your crazy? I was like, what? I don't have a crazy. Yes, you do. And as time has gone on, yes, I have been able to identify what's my crazy. And so if you meet someone and you ask a person, what's your crazy? And that person goes, I have no crazy. You need to be like, it was so nice to have met you. Because all of us have some crazy.
But maybe you have to think about it because as you said that to me, as you said that, I'm like, what's my crazy? I'm like, I don't know.
What's your
And
crazy?
but what I did think though, I think I have many of them.
Damn, there you go. And so when we get to that point in life, then, like you just said, many times we are already in a relationship and one of us starts to realize, damn, I got a lot of issues. I have these things that I need to work on. Like, I don't want to keep doing this over and over and over again because it has not garnered me where I'm trying to go in my life.
Exactly.
Right.
Uh-huh.
And
Yep.
but by that time, you and the other person are already sharing space. You're sharing life, you're sharing money, you're sharing kids, you're sharing trauma with one another. And then the other person is like, well, how dare you think that you just gonna up and walk out and leave me here with my crazy?
Yeah,
No.
you can't get away from me.
Right. You part of the crazy now. So where you think you're going? And you know, it's as crazy as that sounds, those are the conversations so many times we have to have with ourselves. Because like I said, when I was talking to my mother last night, and I said, you know, it's like women have always been abused. Women and children have always been abused
Always, always.
and are still being abused, right?
Yes,
Right.
absolutely.
And I said, it's so bizarre to me. And it's not bizarre. I get it, but it just burns my spirit that a human being could say to another human being, okay, first, I love you. I really like you. I love you. I'm here for you. We're going to build this life together. And then somewhere along the line, you have this snap moment. And then maybe it's not even a snap moment. The real you shows up. That's what it is. The real you shows up. But by that time, I'm so in. Because think about it. The first time someone hits you, or the first time someone threatens your life, or the first time somebody grabs you and chokes you, or they jump up and say to you, get out, or they go into a state where you're like, who are you? The human part of us, the good sense part of us would be, good night, have a great life, I'm out of here. But we don't. And why we don't is because something inside of us, starting with our own trauma, starting with our own hurt, our own pain, our own crazy, makes us believe that that's not really who they are.
I mean, I think for some people, but
and together we can work through this.
well, I mean, I think a lot of people, but I think that for you and I, that's not true. I think that it becomes a point that we're like, okay, I gotta go. I just gotta figure out how I gotta go. Because it's not always.
But even, yeah, but see, what you're about to say is where we step in and we make an excuse for why we should not go.
No. I'm not talking about no excuse like why you should not go. It's just like, if whatever, whatever the situation is, you have kids or you need money or whatever the situation is, sometimes you have to make a plan. It's not that you're not going. It's because everybody's situation is different. Some people are able just to be like, I'm out and I'm done. And then some people have to make a plan. If they don't work, they don't have no money. The husband has all the money, whatever the case may be.
That.
Well, I'm not saying that you're
but in that process, how many women never leave? Never. Well, I'm not saying never leave. I mean, they never get to leave because they're murdered before they're able to leave.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
So what I'm saying is that,
right. I mean, sometimes you have to run. Don't get me wrong.
Right. Sometimes in these situations, when we start to see the trauma of another human being, the humanness in us tends to say, oh my God, I'm sorry that happened to you. And so now we try to analyze it. We try we pacify it. We try to understand it. And we are not equipped to do that.
Well, I mean, just like, I told you my niece was murdered in Atlanta like 3 years ago.
Exactly.
And, and he just like, I'm just going to talk to him. Her sister was like, you don't need to talk to him.
Right.
You need to leave this situation alone.
Right.
She goes to talk to him and, he murders her.
Right.
and he kills
And
himself
self.
too. No,
Exactly.
exactly. She left her 2 babies. And it's like really, really sad because there is something like, no, I agree with you. And you want to say like, I know this person. And sometimes
But
you
you
really,
don't.
exactly. You know, but if I think that that gut instinct inside of you, if that
Right.
gut instinct inside of you is telling you that you gotta run, then guess
Right.
what? You gotta run, or you
Right.
gotta like no return. You need to move someplace. This person never could find you again.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's true, but we don't always go by our gut reaction, which we should. You know, I mean, it's just like when I got abducted in the elevator. I did not feel because there was so much energy on the elevator when I got on.
Right.
But when everybody else got off, I couldn't even see this person. But when I tell you, every hair on the back of my neck stood up and I knew I was in danger.
Right.
When everybody else left, I felt that energy. And he's not stupid, he felt it too. He
It
had
was
his
too, but
hands
it
right
was
on
too
my back
late.
and that
Yeah.
gun right to my side.
Right.
You know, he's like, oh, she knows I'm back here. Boom, boom, gun, mouth, everything. You know what I mean? And there was no return at that point.
Right. And
You know,
there are points in our lives that right, there's no return. But my point is still, when something happens to us bad the first time early on in something,
oh yeah.
that we typically do not exit. That's what I'm trying to say. We don't
No,
exit.
no, it's true. You're right about that.
We continue on, sometimes months, weeks, years, right? Knowing that this is not a good thing.
And it's not gonna get any better.
And it's not going to get any better. As a matter of fact, it's only going to go downhill, because
It's not gonna get
now
worse.
I'm in a situation that I have no control over. Now all of my trauma, my hurt, my pain, my fears, everything, it's on the top. It's the
Yeah,
cream.
exactly. It's
And
heightened.
everything
Yes.
underneath it is balling. I
It's true.
can't even touch the ground of my own trauma, because I'm up here in the cream, right? And I'm trying to survive in your trauma and
hmm
in my own trauma, and it is one of the things, like I said, abuse is one of the things that just, it gets my goat. I don't have any tolerance for it. I'm
No,
not
it's
trying to understand it. I'm not,
you can't understand it.
and right, because I've seen it too much. I've witnessed it too much. And I am bothered by the fact of how people justify it.
Yeah,
I'm bothered by how abuse of another human being is constantly justified, you
yeah,
know,
and there's no justification.
and there is none, you know. So
There's really no justification. It's and you see it every day in one
every
form or
day,
another. Every day.
even this story, and I couldn't even read it. This story that's going on now, where all these people were on this train and watched this woman being raped and assaulted, and the people are standing around with their phones.
Exactly. I heard that.
I, I, I There were men, there were women, and you all stood there with your phones. I just, I, I am just, human nature
That's
boggles my
crazy.
spirit at times, And then they're saying, of course, there are not going to be any charges brought up against any of these people. It's not even about charges. It's about, how can you be so inhumane? And it wasn't like, I understand, like people will say, I'm not getting involved. We've seen so many of those stories where a woman is screaming in the middle of the night, and everybody turns the lights on and everybody turn the light back off, and nobody goes to help. But you were in a train car watching, like I don't understand that. I
That was
don't
really sad.
understand that type of disconnect to another human being. But at the same time, we live in a society where people would protect an animal over a human being.
Yep.
You'd go to court, you'd go to battle, you'll get laws put in place for an animal, but oh, you consider an animal a defenseless and helpless being, but you don't see another human being that's not able to defend themselves from harm and danger important enough to help them.
Hmm.
So again, life is interesting every day. Take nothing for granted. Take nothing for, oh, that's not my business. It's not your business. I understand that. And I'm never going to say put your life in danger. But for all those people standing there with a phone, and this is how life has played out sometimes, I feel like in many other situations. Okay, physically, maybe I understand you were afraid, but you stood there and you watched someone being abused and harmed and hurt. And not one of those people dialed 911. Not one person. You stood there and you watched a crime happening, a human being being assaulted and hurt, and you videotaped it. What were you videotaping it for?
Yeah. Voyeurism. We live in a time when people want to see and record and tape and all this kind of stuff, but they're not doing anything about it. I mean, you just see that all around. And then I do think, like, why didn't they call the police? Well, I mean, okay, like maybe you didn't know exactly where you were, but if you would have called 911, they would have been able to track you and just
Exactly.
start looking and start going. I mean, it's just like when I was being attacked in the elevator. This is like 30 something years ago,
Right.
and the so when the elevator doors open, I'm looking at the girl like looking deep in her eyes, like screaming for help. And he now this man has me like this, like, I told you about that. So it's already, you see that it's already an abusive situation. But
Right.
now he really has the gun in my side at this point.
Right.
And when the cops told me that they said that because it was a police station, like a satellite office right there in the building.
Mm-hmm.
And when they came down, the two young ladies, they were laughing about it. Say, oh yeah, she gonna get her butt beat tonight. She done pissed him off. Mind you, I just left Barney's. Okay, the way I was, no, I was at Fred the Furrier. The way I was dressed and the way it
Right.
didn't
It
like we
didn't make
belong
any
together.
sense.
Exactly.
But
And
we don't, but we see what we want to see, because
which is true.
that's a mindset. That's a
But check this out.
mindset like, oh, she deserve it.
Exactly. And the cops said that they said, where was this? What happened? And that's when they said, once the girls told the story, they knew I was in trouble and they started running through the building looking for me.
Well, but at least they said, okay, so, and that was just divine intervention, because they didn't go to the police station, right? They just happened to be talking.
Exactly.
Divine
They overheard the two girls, young ladies, having a conversation with each other.
Divine
And
intervention.
I mean, they didn't get to me in time. They never got to me, actually.
Right.
But yes, but that's what they told me. We were looking for you because we knew you were in trouble, because we heard these two young ladies and they were actually laughing that you're about to get beat up by your boyfriend.
Mm.
Yeah, so you're right. I mean, it's really, really interesting. You say something, but then I guess, look, I felt the same way about this man punching his daughter in the head.
Yes, absolutely.
I didn't know what to say, what to do. Like, do you approach these, like, like you are, like in some situations, did I call the police? I mean, and I felt like, and I guess I'm talking about because I felt like I wish I would have done something, but I just didn't know what to do.
Right. And I get that. No, I don't know humanness. I get that part. But I'm talking about you were a woman on the street, and this was a transient situation.
Right.
So even if you had called the police, that didn't mean the police were going to get there in time, or and you could have been in danger. That person could have attacked you, hearing you, or you saying something to them. I mean, because already, if he's hitting a child in the head, then more than likely he probably would have been very verbally or physically abusive to you as well. So I get that. But I'm talking about when there's two people, one person who's being victimized, and there are 20 to 30 other people or 5 other people, whatever, standing there videotaping, and no one does anything.
Yeah.
I don't understand that.
I don't understand either.
You know, that I'm talking about that. And it seems like the society in which we live, we videotape everything. So you're going to videotape it, and then what you're going to do, then you're going to cast that onto the news, or you're going to cast that onto your social media pages of someone being raped. Like, what is wrong with us that that's what I'm saying. We are missing a vital piece of being human, and that is being human. Enough to care about another person, right? Like, no, I'm not going to say you should have jumped out there and right, calling the police probably would have not, because by the time the police would have come, they would have been gone. You would have been gone. So I get that part, but I'm talking about when you have the ability, all you had to do was dial 911. The train was going to stop eventually.
But eventually, but you're just taping it for your own voyeurism.
Yeah. Like, what does that say about us? Like, this is what we've come to. Like, the reality of everything is so sordid that we enjoy seeing people being hurt and misused, and blood and gore is so, that's intriguing to us.
Well, what is we're desensitized.
Yes, very much so.
As a society, we are desensitized
to a very, very bad place.
Yes, we are.
To a very, very bad place. And it's awful. It's very, very awful. So I don't know. You just pray, do your part.
Because prayer does change things, that's for sure.
Yes, it does. Identify your own crazies. Be grateful, because I am grateful. Yes, I'm very grateful every day that I am able to wake up with a roof, floors, and walls. And even if I didn't, I may not necessarily, I'm not going to say I'm going to be happy about the situation, but I'm still grateful because I woke up.
Oh, absolutely. That's the blessing every day.
Because you realize that there have been so many situations where, again, things have happened in our lives that we didn't know was going to happen. We couldn't have planned for it. And even if we had plans for it, it didn't go as planned.
That's true.
It didn't go as planned. So just being grateful, learning how to give grace to oneself, right? Learning how to have gratitude for the grace that you get from your creator, from Lord Jesus Christ. And then learning how to give grace to others, because at this point in our lives, we are all going through something. The only difference is the level of severity in which you are going through something, or the level of intensity in which you are going through is different than what I may be going through, but we're all going through something, and we're all going through multiple somethings in our lives at the same exact time. Which is very interesting. So we just have to learn how to give grace and pray that we get grace from others.
Absolutely. Hi, honey bunny.
Yep. Well, we thank you all for joining us today.
My clients are like, my phone is going crazy right now.
Yes, it's time to go to work, to your other work. Well, we thank you all for joining us today. We hope that you all have a wonderful, blessed weekend. Enjoy it. I don't know what your weather is doing. Here it's going to be nice and fally. And so, get out, spend some time with your family, spend some time with yourself, get out, exercise, spend some
Exactly.
time outdoors, but, you know, spend some time
It's
with
gonna be in the
yourself.
60s, 70s today, but it's gonna be in the 60s for the rest of the week.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty much what we're going to have here too. So,
Mhm.
so enjoy. We thank you all. We hope
Enjoy,
that you
you
got
know,
some good information. And
definitely. And tell somebody you love them today,
oh, yes.
and give them a
Yeah.
hug.
Yes, right.
Yeah,
That's true. And give somebody some grace today. That's true.
exactly. Definitely.
Check on somebody today. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. Check on somebody this weekend or today and throughout the weekend. Just make sure that they're good.
Exactly. Yeah, you may change their life. You never know.
Absolutely.
You
Absolutely.
never know. And we're both life coaches, you
Yes, we
know.
are.
Yeah. My mentor dot life, Stephanie Deani / Stephanie Deani Green.
Yep. And I can be reached at I do love coaching at gmail.com. And of course, you can reach us both on Spotify and on our YouTube channel. And so, share with someone. If you like us, share with someone and continue to join us. So we thank you all so much. Have a great weekend. Be blessed and take care.
Bye, honey bunny.
Bye, honey bunny. Enjoy your weekend.
You enjoy your weekend too.
Thank you.